My name is Ulysses, but everybody calls me Sonny, and today we're going to be going over the Octave Systematic Approach, or OSA, and hopefully it's going to make your life in soloing a little bit easier. There are a couple of things you are going to need to know before we start going over the system. The first thing you're going to have to know is the chromatic scale. Can you spell it off the top of your head? And the next thing is the major scale. Now, not necessarily how to spell all of them or how they work on the fretboard, but you know how the major scale is created out of the chromatic scale. Now, if you already have some systems under control or are familiar with, like Cage or 3 notes per string, it's totally fine. But I'm going to really stress that you still go through all the lessons, because you're going to notice that this system is taught in a particular way for a particular reason. Now, if you need the downloads, you can go to my website. There's no information capture. I can't stand all that. You just go download all the charts that we're going to be using. But don't just go download the charts and practice all the patterns. It doesn't work like that. It's taught in a particular way, so that way you can navigate the fretboard a little bit easier. So let's go over why it's so important that we have these lessons before you start practicing all these patterns. So let's say you ask a musician to play a C major scale. They'll probably do something like this, going from the lowest note to the highest note, and that makes sense. But on guitar, things get pretty crazy because we have 5 middle Cs, and that quintupling of one note makes this situation for us a lot harder when someone says play a scale. So to make that a little bit easier, people have created systems to make scale playing easier. So let's say you're going to do 3 notes per string. 3 notes per string is a great system because you can go through a lot of notes really quickly. And there's only 7 patterns you have to memorize. The problem with this is that you're thinking of a lot of notes at the exact same time. And there's no chord that's matched up with the scale that you're playing. So when you start to try to get more advanced or move around, it's kind of static in that. So another system would be caged, where something more like this, which is fine because it's paired up with a chord, and now you can think of the chord and the scale at the same time. However, you're still thinking of a lot of notes at the same time, and it's kind of hard to weave in and out because although there are 5 positions, we're thinking about it in a very blocked type of way. One section does not interact with another section. You kind of just shift over. What I'm going to suggest as we start to analyze how we are moving from one octave of the scale to the next octave of the scale. So let's see how we can actually take that in a more deep level. So instead of playing a C major scale from the lowest note to the highest note, we're going to start from the highest note and then go down, then descend. And let's analyze that. Let's use C on the E string, 8th fret. If that's there, the closest C that's an octave down would be a C on the G string on the 5th fret. Now, without moving, that's pretty good because now I can play the entire major scale without moving. That's fantastic. But this is where things start to get kind of weird because that's not the only middle C. If I put my first finger on the E string on that 8th fret, the closest C to me now, an octave down, will be on the D string, 10th fret. So we have 2 different ways to play the exact same scale descending. And this gets kind of crazy. So what I think is for us to actually memorize the scale, the fretboard, that way. And we try to memorize it in those particular directions. One direction, I'm heading towards the headstock to play a C major scale going down. But there's another direction, I'm heading towards the body. Okay, that's awesome. So I'm going to call the one going towards the headstock backwards, because normally we think of going towards the headstock as backwards, and we're going to call the one going towards the body forward. Okay? Do not confuse that with ascending or descending the scale. I'm always going down the scale, descending. But this descension is going towards the headstock. This descension is going towards the body. One's going backwards, the other one's going forward. But if we look closely, there's a third option. One where I start on the second, with my second finger on the 8th fret of the E string. So we have 3 different ways we could play this C major scale going down. We're going to call that third one static. So we have 3 different ways. We have backwards, forward, and static. How does this help us? Well, now we know that we can pick which way we want to go, which is easier for us. Now, if we actually end up memorizing all of them, we're going to have a lot more of the fretboard memorized in a lot shorter period of time. And we can actually start to build chords in a bit easier fashion because those are also going to either move forward, backward, or stay still. Now, is this the best way of soloing? No, it's not the best way of soloing. But let's continue to examine the C major scale. So if we play the C major scale, right? C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. It's totally fine to practice that way. But I'm going to suggest that we use numbers instead, using the intervals. And the reason why is we can actually start changing scales in a lot more easier fashion. So instead of saying the notes like I just did, I'm going to say the C major scale, the backwards pattern, in numbers. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. I want to be able to associate what my finger is doing and with what number it is. And a lot of us do not actually want to say the number out loud. And I get it. It seems kind of lame and, nerds do that. The reason why we're doing this is to make sure that we actually do know where we are at any given moment in time. We may think we know where we're at, but as you go deeper in the in OSA, you're going to notice that you don't know these scales nearly as well as you think you do because it's so easy to learn the pattern, but it's not easy to think of the interval. So practice backwards like I just did, and now we're going to do forward out loud. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And now we're going to do static the exact same way. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now remember, don't have to go fast. 60 beats is totally fine. One note per beat. Make sure you're saying it out loud and that you're comfortable. If you notice that you're kind of like panicking, this means that you're not comfortable with it yet. It's totally fine. What I also want to make sure of is that you are not just blindly saying it. It's very easy to get into a rhythm of it, so you're able to play and count with no thought. Make sure you actually do know the intervals inside and out at 60 beats per minute. So the first big challenge point of OSA is going up and down all the patterns. And this is going to be a pain, but I promise you it's going to help a lot. Do not use a click for this. You're going to go down, backwards, then back up. Then you're going to go down static, and then back up, and then down forward, and then back up, counting the entire time. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Again, doesn't have to be as fast as me, but you have to do it at least at 60 beats per minute. This is going to help you think faster. This is going to help with phrasing later on and changes for all those of us who actually know what those are. If you don't, it's okay. But being able to think at 60 beats per minute, knowing what those intervals are, is going to help tremendously. Okay? So if you have any questions, concerns, comments, death threats, or want me to go over something specific, just leave it in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to answer it as clearly as I can. All right, see you next time.